right, this is Alex here. Just me. So I think I'm going to try to keep this around somewhere in the 5 to 10 minute range. I've been sick recently, so I haven't had the energy to do much. I also started coaching track in the past month since March, and that is really taking it out of me. For a guy that has openly acknowledged that I dislike children, I've been there helping the children a lot. Since the past year. I coach football, um, coach track now. I've done off-season stuff for the football team. I've gone to clinics. I've hosted the weight room. I've been lifting with the kids actually, because as it turns out, they're not exactly well versed in the weightlifting category, I guess. But I can talk about that probably in a separate show because that is a big topic of mine, especially when it comes to um, workout regimen, dieting, uh, and you see it a lot across the sports. What type of workouts do you do to maximize your efficiency and effectiveness for that sport? So like a football player might not have the same regimen that a baseball player would have, that a wrestler would have, that a basketball player would have. For instance, we had a kid that played football and then he went into basketball, and I would prefer you lift all year round with like an off week every so often. Um, but he didn't lift during football that much. Well, none of the kids did, but so he didn't lift during football, and then he started lifting a little bit at the beginning of basketball season, and I don't know if he really hurt himself or he said he hurt himself or if he hurt himself during basketball and said it was because of weights, but he ended up, the whole basketball team was instructed by their coach to not stop attending weights, which I think is a horrible idea. Weights is a good, even if you don't lift to grow your strength, at least you're in there working out bumps and bruises that you get. Not that basketball is the most bump and bruisey sport you play. Um, I guess it depends on how you play basketball, which, based on their 3 to 4 wins they've got this season, I would assume they don't play that tough. Um, Hopefully, basketball coaches either don't watch this video, but hopefully they do, and they just, accept the truth. I mean, I'll openly admit that the football team wasn't tough. Um, they didn't lift, they didn't work hard. I mean, hell, they coach installed the offense in the summer before season, and then and then our offense is based off of one play, which is a power play, and then we have counters based off the power play, counters and passes. And he said we're supposed to run that power play 75% of the time. And here I was, week 8 or 9, we're in a meeting and we're asking them, okay, what do you do on power? And the kids are like looking at each other, and we're like, I look over at the head coach. I'm like, kid me, 75% of our offense is one play, and the kids don't even know the rule for it. So, yeah, 0-10 was not the way I wanted it to go. But if you looked at the kids and you watched them practice, yeah, you would think 0-10 was a pretty good season for what they did. Um, that being said, the track team, and I played, or I guess I didn't play track, but I competed in track as a shot put, discus, and 4x1 runner. I did that for only 2 years, and it was what it was. It just got me 2 more varsity letters. Not that it mattered, um, but now that I'm coaching track, I think the first day we went outside, I was reminded. I mean, it was kind of cold, windy, and a little bit of rain, and I was like, I remember why I don't like track now. I thought, and which I've heard a lot of people say they don't like track, they just do it for the varsity letter and to do something during the springtime. And I truly regret not doing golf, even though a lot of people shit on golf as a mediocre sport. But um, when you grow up and you look at the executives of a company that you're working for, a lot of them golf, and they don't golf with like, oh, I'm going to take my my friend I'm gonna go golfing with, the executive of this other company. I'm gonna go to um, some exclusive golf course and golf with, Jim Irsay owns a golf course up in Culver, Indiana, and, well, we don't know what he's going to do with it, but that's the kind of place I'd expect executives of banks, big time financial advisory firms, um, hospitals, big hospital chains. I would expect like big time money makers to get invited to, not necessarily a tournament, but get invited to play at a prestigious golf course owned by Jim Irsay, a Mark Cuban, an old Donnie Trump. I would expect he plays golf with some pretty high up, either pretty high up guys or some ass kissers that are going to let him win. Um, that being said, back to track. Keep getting sidetracked. You just give me the mic and I turn into the biggest rambler you've ever met. Um, so I coach shot put as if they're going from so in the power throw, the stationary throw, I have them going from so they turn their feet to 6 o'clock if you're thinking of the shot put ring, and then when they throw, they flick their hips open just like a baseball player would when he bats, um, or when a linebacker drops in coverage. You flip your hips open and you swing your near to the sand hand. You swing it straight out as hard as you can to the point where you can feel the blood rushing back to your fingertips. Like, that's how hard I want you to throw it, up and out. So you start down. You start bent down at the knees, slight bent at the hips, bent down, looking down, and then you flick that open. It opens your chest, and you turn your head with it, and then from there, as you keep spinning, as you keep forcing your blood to go to your fingertips, you naturally come into a good position to just launch the ball out, to essentially put the ball. Obviously, it's not a throw, because a throw of that weight would tear your shoulder to shreds pretty easily, but you could put the ball kind of like how Phillip Rivers puts a football almost. I have him doing that, but the head varsity coach, she has him pulling the elbow, kind of like you're starting a lawnmower. And the athletes today asked me, they told me, they're like, I prefer pulling the elbow because it makes me feel like I have more power. And I was like, well, there's no measurement really to gauge if you're getting the power, because at least when your arm's extended and you feel the blood pushing itself due to the centripetal force of the motion, you're pushing the blood to your fingertips. So there is a physical metric that you can use to determine whether or not you're being explosive enough, which wasn't the way I was taught it, but that's the way it makes sense in my mind. Because when you just rip the elbow without extending the arm, you're not going to feel that in your elbow because the blood has somewhere else to go. So it's going to, even if you swing your elbow back far enough, it's going to curve down and come down the forearm. So I think they're just kids, and they're, they were taught to do it one way, and I'm trying to teach them to do another way, and they're trying to fight back. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I have been in your shoes, and I've actually, my junior year, my first year, I didn't have a coach. They just said, all right, here, the track coach, the head coach, who might have known a little bit of shot put, just walked over and said, okay, here's what you do, here's what I know it looks like, just try it and don't hurt your shoulder. So I did it. It was okay, I guess. And then halfway through the season, we came across a coach that coached at a rival conference school, but he was willing to coach both of us because he knew we didn't have coaches for shot put or disc. So he's like, oh, well, if we could meet up at, joint fields and have practice, because I think he lived in Rochester. His kid went to North White, which is out in White County, oddly enough. and they were about our competitiveness level. So he would just meet us at Caston, and his kid would come over, and we'd bring both the teams, shot putting teams together, and do shot put and disc. So that probably progressed me the most. Senior year, I was pretty much cashed out of school. I was like, football season was over. That's all I cared about. Let's just let's just get track over with already. So how did I end up talking about my track experience? Anyway, the kids. So I have there's 5 girls on the team. 3 of them do shot and disc. Uh, so our girls competitiveness team isn't looking all that great. And then I have 3 or 4 boys, but often they're out doing sprints or high jump. So I've only practiced shot with them like 3 times so far this season, and our first meet is off of this recording. It's in the 4th day from today, so 4 days away. Our first meet, and they've only practiced throwing 3 times, and one of which was indoors. But the one kid that's going to win a lot is going to be our future quarterback, and I think he just simply is a better athlete, so he's going to win on pure athleticism as an 8th grader compared to a lot of these other kids just haven't matured as quickly as he did. So he's gonna outperform them because he hit puberty first, which is one of the big things I hate about junior high sports. I somewhat hated in high school because you would expect a senior in high school, a male at the age of 18, 17, 18 to finally have hit puberty, but I mean, I guess it's possible for a guy to be 20 and finally have his first growth spurt, or he has his first growth spurt when he's young, and then he has the main one that he gains all the height and the weight that you would like a football player to have. But this kid he's about 5'10", 160, which isn't bad for an 8th grader at our level. He'll win events simply because he's ahead of them in maturity. The other 2 are work in progresses. um, so for the girls, I basically compose the practice around them because they're there to throw strictly every day. So sometimes we'll go out and throw, and then after they get 10 throws, we'll come in and do a quick lift. Something to engage their core, preferably to help their core and their legs, to help with their explosiveness on their throws, because they're kind of lacking that. So that'd be a lot of deadlifts, cleans. I do hang clean deadlift, an ab circuit where we'll do like medicine balls. We'll do obliques. Obliques would be very important when it comes to starting with your body at the 6 o'clock and then turning to the 12 o'clock and as explosive as possible. Then we'll do calf raises, dumbbell lunge, and then band slides. And then typically by that time practice is over. So I'm trying to get them to be more explosive, just like you try to get every other athlete. I mean, you try to get wrestlers to be more explosive. I don't know if you try to get soccer players to be more explosive. I guess you should. You would think so. Cross country athletes, there's a kid that just runs all the time for Caston, and he's running like 13 miles in like 10 minutes. He's pretty good statewide, but one of the coaches tried to get him to work on his sprinting so he can sprint faster and maintain a higher burst. Because at the end of the race, he was getting beat because a guy would just hang with him and hang with him and hang with him, and then out sprint him in that final last leg and beat him. Because the kid can run long distance, but he can't sprint any distance. Our kid, but other kids can say, hey, we don't need to go out here. Cross country does like a 3.1 mile run, and they're like, well, we don't need to go out here and run 13 miles in 10 minutes. We need to run 3 miles in 4 or 5 minutes or whatever the time is, and then sprint that last leg and beat him because he's not practicing sprinting, and he's actually a pretty slow sprinter. because his body isn't trained to maintain that short burst of high output. His body has been trained to maintain a small, steady flow for a long distance. And well, I don't know how that ties into cross, or I don't know how him and cross country ties into my track throwers, but um, anyway, back to them. Um, I remember winning track meets all because there's a lack of competition, and I think they'll see the same thing. I think that's common with all sports, high school sports, especially at smaller schools. We have, like I said, 5 girls. One can't compete on Monday because she's missed too many practices. 3 of them are throwers. We need 4 to do the 4x1 and the 4x400, so they're all going to run. So they're, like it or not, you're gonna go throw, then you're gonna go hand the baton off and run, um, which I know they don't like that. One girl has her quad muscles growing into her calf muscles around her knee, and it is inflamed whenever she runs. That's not fun. Um, it actually sounds quite painful, really. Um, and I did the 4x1 in high school just because we didn't have the athletes to stay with it. Or if we did have the athletes, I just happened to be more athletic. Sadly enough, but I think overall for the track season, I expect. I mean, the varsity has already won their first meet. I expect to win as a team. Probably a few of these meets, quite a few actually, all because of the lack of competition. Um, Overall, I don't expect the girls to win a lot, but the boys to. All because we only have, we have a lack of competition. Um, but I guess at the junior high level, you're not learning to win. You're learning the basics, and then you're well, I guess you're in a way you're learning to win, but you're learning the basics and you're trying to have fun with it. And then when you get into high school, it evolves from learning the basics and having fun to, okay, now it's time to be advanced and go out there and win and be a competitor. And uh, if I look at Castle Sports as a whole, there is no competitor. There is no, uh, there is no. When other teams look at their schedule and they see our name, they're not thinking that's going to be a tough one. They're looking at the schools like Pioneer, probably Knox, maybe Judson, North Judson, and they're saying, well, they're definitely looking at Laville too, Laville, and they're thinking, wow, those are the schools that are going to be tough. That's the competition. No matter what sport is, that's going to be a tough battle to win. We're going to be competing hard every snap, every time we run down the court, every second of the wrestling meet, of the cross country meet, of the track meet. Some of these schools don't have soccer, so I guess we luck out. um, but ultimately, yeah, we're just not in a good position. But I guess that means we can't have fun. Also, if you're listening to this and you know someone that is experienced at track, I'm all ears because I mean I don't intend. I'm not putting into track what I put into football because I simply just love football with a passion. But I am more than willing to change my regimen and practice schedule and um, change the just any sort of tweak I can to make sure these kids get better. Um, even if they push back, which obviously they already have, as I've mentioned, but I'm looking at the timer and I'm getting close to 20 minutes. So I guess I can ramble on a lot more than what I thought. I thought without Dan this might be a bit of a challenge, but I guess I'm like that pro wrestler CM Punk. You give me the mic and then you just don't know what to expect. And I didn't either. I thought I would be struggling to get to 10 minutes, but I far exceeded that, and I guess I apologize for going on too long, but it is what it is. Um, Again, this was Alex on a solo show. Thank you. I hope you have a nice spring, whenever spring decides to get here and stay here, and I hope you enjoyed the video.